nothing was wrong with the water. The water itself would be put onto a, since it's already paid, but so we split out the water part of it. And the water has actually either needs to be paid or will be paid in total, but could be set out to a payment plan. The sewer bill we have had, and Ray can explain or whatever, but that actually has been reduced based on how many years and what the track record has.
Well, that's not totally accurate, but I'll just refresh.
But that's why I defer to you.
Refresh your memory a little bit. If you recall, Comfort Inn, which occurred back in billing must have been back in November. A lady basically had a problem and running, get a $13,000 bill for that past summer billing occurred. They didn't really do anything for her because it was running. There was a shower running, and there was a couple of toilets. She had claimed they were broken, but basically our staff indicated that they were running the system. And the only thing that we could do for her was give her a modified payment schedule, which was Nick Pitch, and I appreciate the fact, I'm not really sure who did this, but bottom line is that the water consumption was still water used and water went down the drain. I don't know how they, again, the commission members raise this differently because of the just giving you a little bit of history.
Historical, didn't we, people had irrigation systems, we gave you credit.
That part, when we knew it wasn't going down the sewer, we would look at the 3 years average, or 3 quarters, or 3 years, whatever the circumstances were, and then evaluate that based on that, and give them the credit based on that, rather than giving them full cost of what the sewer fee is. As we all know, the sewer fee is a lot higher than the water fee. As a result of that, it is at least some kind of compensation. This time, though, I think, and you have to think about it a little bit differently, and be consistent, because the water did go down the sewer drain. It's true that it wasn't intended to do, but somehow or other, it's like a leaky flap. If somebody had a leaky flap in the house and then repaired it, it's repaired. But the problem is the water was down the sewer, we paid for the water, we paid for the sewer.
I remember on Berlin Turnpike, there was 2 incidences, very fairly. And one was a trailer park, and some PVC line broke or something, and the water went into the ground. And it was clearly cut and dry.
That is, yeah.
And then the other one, on the other side of the street, he had a tenant living in his house. The house is knocked down next to the pumping station there.
Yeah, he paid also.
And he ran that, but the water, I believe, according to Wayne Bugby, went into the ground. Also, there was a garage in the back. Somehow, right. He opened the valves up, and
that was
a 2-inch
the
line
Daniel property, and his original bill was $51,000.
Yeah,
it was reduced to $36,000, which
because it didn't go into the sewage.
It didn't go into the sewage. Right.
That was some deep.
Do we want to put this on as an agenda item? Not only just
well, you don't have to make a decision tonight. You can think about it, but I also think that you should consider it based on past practice.
Well, the question, that is residence, right?
No, this is in 80 Clark, which is Commerce Park.
It says residential.
No, it's 80 Clark.
It says 80, but it says residential building.
I don't know how it's, you mean the address to that, it gets mailed to his house. But it's not, that's 80 Clark Drive.
It's not the location.
that's a commercial building.
Oh, yeah.
It's a billing versus actual.
450,000 square foot.
That what you're saying is kind of like what I was alluding to before, and this is Bruce approach, is to put it, think about it, put it on the agenda for next month for action purposes, and then have it spelled out so we can actually decipher if need be.
do we need to do that? I mean, we've already established that if irrigation line is broken, then we consider something. Or just water going into the sewer, paying for the water and the sewer, right? But I don't know, we've never given a reprieve on that.
No, not that I'm aware of.
So,
Now, the water going into the sewer.
yeah, because the one in sewer, but the irrigation is not going to sewer. So that, and I look, as you were speaking, I was trying to find something.
Yeah, we also did that, if you recall back, letter. It may have been the year before. Sorry, the point of a Stony Mill, remember there was an individual there that owned a piece of property at Stony Mill, but was renting it out to a tenant, and the tenant let the sewer. Apparently, the toilet continued to run. They came back with a $3,000 bill as well. I think it's sad, but I'm not really sure that we can do anything consistent with our policy.
In the past, in regards to what you're saying, so I understand.
I could add a comment, Jim Gorbel. From what I'm hearing is it's pretty straightforward. There was a leak in the water system, water leaked into the sewer system, which obviously we're responsible to pay for through the Mattabesett Sewer District. I don't believe that a reimbursement is warranted at this point. If it was a leak outside, a line going into the structure, the water went into the ground, and yes, we see a reimbursement being, something that we would consider. But the water leak that went into the system, and we end up paying for it, and so does the customer. And I think Ray mentioned he had a similar set of circumstances recently at the Comfort Motel, where there was a drastic leak, in their plumbing system, which went into the sewer, and we worked out a payment plan for them in terms of paying for the excessive amount. So something that is pretty straightforward. I don't think we should be setting a precedent to reimburse, not reimburse, but to reduce the sewer charge.
Just for everybody's clarification, Jim Harbaugh is my boss. He's the deputy director of public works. Just so we know where we stand with him. He's not just a regular citizen calling.
I'd have to concur with Al and Jim both. I didn't realize that Jim was on the phone. When Al was finished speaking, I was going to basically say the same thing. It's water that went down the sewer, even though the water was clean and didn't have to be treated, it still went through the treatment process. Because that water didn't know, well, I'm clean, I go this way, I'm dirty, I go this way. It all goes to the same spot and be treated with better.
Well, you know who did it?
Oh, yeah.
Shouldn't that person be responsible?
Yeah, well, absolutely. But the way the water
He may
bill,
have done it and didn't understand what he was doing, but he did take action.
right, but here's the thing, we can only go by the average, and believe me, I concur with what everybody's saying. But at the same time, this right here was, there's only one water meter for that whole building, and they paid portion share to how many?
Well, I hate to say it again, and Jim brought it up in what Comfort Inn is. The Comfort Inn has many units, but and several of the units had problems with it, so it's the same type of thing.
Yep.
And they were running into the wastewater line. It's kind of hard pressed not to, say that we can't really reimburse them because the sewer's been used and it's cost us, and water's been used and it's cost us. So that would be this.
I was just going to mention a point that, since it's mentioned before that this went on for a couple billing cycles. And I would think that with the first billing cycle, when it spiked, somebody should have taken action at that time to look at it. I know.
Well, there was another toilet that was bad,
Yeah.
but it wasn't like this.
So it was a combination.
So actually, there was two other ones that were repaired, and not knowing that there was another one.
Oh, okay.
All right, so we had, Tom, your opinion?
My opinion is same as always, in our sewer system.
All right, Barry?
Same.
The only question I had, these are commercial buildings, right?
Mhm.
People working in these buildings?
Yeah.
They're not empty.
but you have a mentality of a renter. Right? If you own a place, you'd understand where this is coming from. That's why I put the pictures, because nobody would ever believe somebody would do that.
Well,
Okay, I mean, this belongs on raised wall to see how
Wall of
stupid
shame,
people
I
could be.
guess.
Yeah,
And that'll go into, yeah, the wall of shame. All right, going by staff recommendation from, and also the consensus of the opinion of the commission, I would say that, unfortunately, no credit or whatever, our precedent is what it is. The water and the sewer team were taken and used, and the water went in there, so, no action taken. All right, anything else on that subject? Approval of minutes? Anybody that has,
Just
approved them?
do one set at a time, please.
Okay, February,
December 15th.
December
December, oh, I'm sorry, December 15th, right? Yep. Okay, Bruce speaking, December 15th minutes for the regular meeting of December 15th, 2020.
Does anybody need a copy? Because the correct envelope that I made last Wednesday morning.
No.
No.
Apologize, I wasn't there. I did take a look at them, but I can't say yes, no, or maybe. I wasn't at that meeting, unfortunately. So anybody that has and taking a look at them, want to move them?
Most of it, Jim Pickle, I've moved to something December 15th. That's it.
Okay, second.
I'll second it, Tom Lasker.
All right, any discussion?
Wanted to abstain, of course.
I have to abstain on that.
Well, you were at December 15th.
Yeah, you didn't go to the January
You
one,
didn't
but
have January, December 15th, you were there. You can vote on this.
If he wants to.
It's a side effect, I've never got that vaccine.
Okay, so I can vote on that. Something else here. All right, so my abstention is withdrawn, Bruce, and so all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Contrary minds, nay. Okay, December 15th minutes are taken care of. Next in the step, the one I missed was the January 14th.
I make a motion to accept the January 14th.
And this one I know I have, and this one I know I have to abstain, Bruce LaRoche. So moved by Tom Lasker, seconded by,
Barry Fairwood, seconded.
okay. Any discussion, changes? All those in favor, say aye. Contrary minds, nay. Abstention is me, Bruce LaRoche. All right. So the minutes are taken care of. New business.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to add executive session at the very end of the meeting with mine, so.
They will take that up at the end of the meeting.
So I'd like to have a motion to put that on the agenda just before the adjournment.
5-5.
Yeah, you can make it 5-5. That's good.
5-5, second. I'll make a motion, we add it to the meeting.
Lasker. Second,
Second,
I'll second it, Al Garcia.
thank you.
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Contrary minds? Okay,
Okay, I'm gonna get started, and I have a lot of items. If I go too quickly, let me know, and I'll slow down and give you a little bit more details. 4.1, drinking water state revolving loan fund project. We actually have two projects that we're bringing forward to the DWSRF, which is the State Department of Public Health funding mechanism. Basically, if you recall, I think I've mentioned this previously. We had 20-inch concrete pipe, basically that goes from Deming Road to Woodlawn Road along the Berlin Turnpike on the west side. Basically, this pipe is a pipe that we're concerned with. It has a history, not our history, but other histories in terms of catastrophic failures. It's a pipe that we think needs to be replaced with a 16-inch ductile iron pipe, which is the Cadillac of pipes at this point in time. It makes sense because, as you all know, there's a huge subdivision going on that side. That the Daddio property basically is being expanded. There's about 200 units for housing units, 100 unit hotel right now, either a medical building or some kind of a bank financial building. And the southerly section, most southerly section, he anticipates having a gas station with a Dunkin' Donuts type of strip mall. So it's a big project. And also ABC is looking at an additional project. So it makes sense for us to do it. 16-inch ductile iron pipe replacement is going to cost in the vicinity of $1.8 billion. We're looking at a potential loan through them, which would be a 2% loan. And basically, Bernard Engineering we've hired to do the preliminary design. We'll have to make some decisions if we want to go forward with them as the oversight engineer, but for the time being, we would be paying for the design process of our projects and the resultant portion of it and taking the loan out. Additionally, I've asked them to look at it, the Maritime Connection. The Maritime Connection is something that had been years ago planted, but never realized, only because for a couple of reasons actually. That the infrastructure was never fully developed. At one time, it was supposedly a 24-inch line going all over Meriden. Well, it turns out all we have is a 12-inch line to Worthington Point, and then from Worthington Point on to the Canoe Birch Apartments condos, which are up the hill on the Berlin Turnpike, is 8-inch. So that is kind of worthless from that perspective. So we would be looking at tying into the Meriden Connection somewhere about North Colony Road over by Silver Island Way. Silver Island Way is presently served by Meriden, but it's actually a part of Berlin. So there's an agreement that we've had over the years where Meriden actually serves that area. So we would look for a connection sometime from Worthington Point to North Colony Road. That cost will be in the vicinity of $1.3 million. We're not looking at that to be done at the same time. We're looking at back to back. We get up the iron pipe. Maritime Connection serves for a couple reasons. It actually provides us with an additional water source, and the bigger issue is that I found out last year through Cortec that did the analysis evaluation of our storage tank on Lamentation Mountain. Our tank has corrosion issues at the base of the tank. There's nothing at this point in time that could be utilized while the tank is full, and we can't take that tank offline. So in other words, in order to take the tank offline, we need to have a Maritime Connection, and basically that would allow us to take the tank off a line and take care of the corrosion with the interior.
Has Meriden expressed an interest of?
Yes, Meriden expressed an interest. We have
not only connecting to us the suppliers, but also connecting to us to take advantage of us.
Take advantage of us. I don't know that.
Or use our water pass to get to theirs.
Well, we're mixing them. They are capable of hydraulically providing us with water on a temporary basis. I'm looking at this temporary. Long term, we haven't negotiated, we haven't talked about that. That would be something we have to negotiate. We're in a position where we could put in a meter pit and basically have no pump. They, in order to get water from us, would need a pump. So we can take something large enough so that they could install a pump and go back to them if they need the supply in that particular area. So yes, we're looking at a cooperative venture with Meriden eventually with that.
What I'm saying is years ago, Meriden expressed concern. They expressed an interest of using Berlin as a transit to get water from MDC.
Yeah, that would have been nice, but as I mentioned, the infrastructure isn't there. Rod Hewitt, who would have been doing a lot of engineering work for the town of Berlin, Kensington, Worthington as well, made a lot of proposals, but a lot of them weren't materialized. One of the proposals, if they had come to fruition, would have been great. it really would have had a 24-inch line down the Berlin Turnpike all the way to Meredith. Now we have something far less, and so we would be very limited to what we could purchase and what they could pay for us. I would venture to see this as more a temporary emergency type of connection rather than a full-fledged connection long term. But that still could change down the road. The development along that area and so on, there may be additional need for supply from that perspective. So the Maritime Connections provide us with two things. One is the hydraulic capacity to eliminate the tank, and also the provision to provide for a connection that allows us to take the tank out of service.
I got a question on 4.1.
Yes, 4.1, yeah.
If that whole housing project and everything, 60, why are we going to spend the money to replace the?
Well, we would do this normally, regardless of whether they were doing the project or not.
Need that 15-inch line to get his project going?
Yeah, well, yes, he would need it down the road. We would not want him to connect to the 20-inch line because we're afraid that would be a catastrophic failure. Because he needs an 8-inch line off to serve that development. Now, I think I know where you're going with this. Regardless of whether there's a subdivision proposed there or not, we would want to replace this line. This is an integral portion of our distribution system, which if it fails, we have no further options beyond this capacity. I've worked hard with them to get that connection up and going. We have a Britain connection, we have a well field in the southern section of it. So we would be missing a whole bunch of capacity in this area. The other thing is Worthington, on the other hand, also would be in dire straits. They would not be able to supply their customers with almost nothing. So that would be another problem.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
So we're replacing a 20-inch with a 16-inch?
Yep.
The hydraulics work?
Yeah.
A downside?
Yeah.
Question. In talking about the Berlin Turnpike and talking about the long-term plan, there was a 24-inch involved to potentially supply or become the supply route. Are we shorting ourselves here in the long term?
No, I'll give you an example. We're already very complicated. We get water from the Britain through a 12-inch line, which should have been much larger than 12. We get water from the Berlin Turnpike. That 20-inch line only there to provide water from the Woodlawn pump station back to MHAR for fire protection. MHAR doesn't need fire protection. MHAR, which is say out right now, doesn't need fire protection. It makes no sense for us to put back the 20-inch line because the 16-inch line is then consistent from Woodlawn to Lamentation Tank. It's all 16-inch. So it would all be one consistent 16-inch from one end of the floor to the other. Yeah. So that would make a lot more sense than trying to go with a different size pipe. And the ductile iron is really the way to go. We should have been done the first time. Had this been, and this is kind of an ironic thing because the original ductile iron pipe, excuse me, the 20-inch pipe was designed two ways. It was designed one with the cast iron and it was with the concrete pipe. And then they left it up to the contractor, which is surprising to me, and to put in the pipe. The contractor ended up putting the concrete pipe in. We didn't know which one it was. We actually had to dig it up to verify that it was concrete pipe and not cast iron pipe. That's why we would replace it. Had it been cast iron pipe, we could have lived with it. Concrete.
How old is the 20-inch?
1968, 69, something like that.
Any other questions?
Now, Lenard's prepared two, what they call the PERs. These are preliminary engineering reports for both of these proposals. Drinking water program has indicated to me that these are very likely to be, again, it would not be consistent, but at the same time, it would be done back to back. Now, we also looked at a Middletown connection, which is a little bit cheaper, and it makes sense down the road, at $600,000, and that this will strengthen the East Berlin Fire District system. So that's a possibility as well. So I'm looking at that as a potential. And now, what this has done, because of the priority of the 20-inch ductile iron piping in place, has made the East Berlin relining my third priority. I'm still looking at that, but that's still going to be a $3+ million project. So that'll be several years of coming. That's 4.1. Any questions before I move on?
4.2?
4.2, just submitted the other day officially, Beckley Farms, if you recall, Beckley Farms is a pretty large subdivision. Believe it or not, we're in phase 5, which is the last phase of this subdivision, which is 57 condo units. So I'm preparing a developer's permit agreement for this. They have previously put in most of the infrastructure, and then they've been pretty good. We've been working really well with them, being the 8-inch water line that goes in there. And then one thing that they want to do is they want to add individual meters for each condo. That would be fine with us. So those 57 units there. 4.3 Deming Road Pump Station. We have met with, I mentioned this last time, I think we met with DPC, which is Dave Prickett Associates, our consultant, and MDC, and basically looked at a financing. We thought we had a real nice agreement, which would, we've saved our money so that we have about 1.something million available in cash to pay for our portion. They were hopefully going to have the other portion. We're going to be cost sharing 60-40 on this, where 60% of this is MDC financed. They apparently cannot finance it as we would, and so they're looking at a bond. And just this afternoon, I was told that we may even actually look at a state bond for some additional funds for this project. This would be a pretty good project because it would be actually a regional project too, because MDC, and I think I've mentioned this before, between Rocky Hill and in Newington, we actually provide 1,200 of their customers sewer discharge into the Deming Road pump station. And this pumping station, as you have pointed out before, this has created some serious problems because the guys have to go down there every other day and unclog one of the 3 pumps that exist there.
Keeps getting clogged up.
Yeah, so we actually asked one of the contractors to come over and give us some suggestions. He looked at it and he said, well, maybe we can vacuum it up once every couple of weeks or so and see if that helps out. So we're going to try to do that. And actually, when the opportunity presented itself, since we were down there, I called the MDC commissioner, had him come down and take a look at it, just so he could take a look at it. Because we're still trying to get reimbursement for the last 22 years, from 1987 to 2005. I keep going on their board meetings and try to keep bringing it up. They've been pretty resistant about getting it. 4.4 diesel tank. We're getting a little closer to reality here. We've been getting earth contractors to actually do the work. We'll have one tank removed. This is kind of a scenario where we have to be kind of get one in place and the other one out at the same time, so that it doesn't leave us without a emergency power opportunity. So we're getting a new Conwall tank. It doesn't have to be as large as the one we have. It's about 500 gallons. It's also going to be above ground. So right now we're waiting for that tank to be basically ready to go, to be put in. Earth contractors will do it, and at the same time we'll have the other tank removed. 4.5, Mattabasset district letters. My dear friend Art Simonian over at Executive Director of Mattabasset, every time we have a high flow, high rainfall, which we had back in 1215 to 1225, roughly that time frame, sent us letters and told us that he's had huge flows going into his pump stations and into his treatment station. He, as a result of those, has been getting violation notices from DEEP. Just recently, DEEP sent out a letter, which I will be responding to, which says basically that if you don't get the towns to reduce their INIs, that they may put a moratorium on building on us, and or they may require the Madagascar to upgrade their actual facility, which means extra money. If you recall back historically, I came on board, they were every year the percentage going up was like 25%, 29%. I don't want to go through that again. So I'm hoping that they effectuate some kind of an I&I reduction in all towns. And in my case,
It's not our I though, it's.
No, that's what I was just gonna bring
I'm
up,
hoping
is,
that they emphasize the districts. Art keeps basically holding us responsible for the two districts, trying to get away from that issue.
we've had this discussion in the last couple, 3 meetings in a row. That document that he is sending out specifically to the town of Berlin needs to be associated to Kensington and Worthington. Did he do that in this instance? Is Deep going at them?
Well, that's the reason I'm drafting up a letter, in fact, I finished the document this afternoon, to send to the Deep Director of Planning and Management, which is Jennifer Perry, because I think that Art should be taking more of a greater role, requiring the districts to do more.
And I thought he was,
Two.
in the report that we got.
The only problem is, and I understand Art's position, because I've talked to him several times, he doesn't have the enforcement capabilities. EPA and DEEP do have the enforcement capabilities, and I think they should be taking that role more seriously, and taking an action. We can't do anything. I can't ask Worthington or Kensington to do anything. That's not gonna happen. So basically, I believe the agencies have to go in here independently and work on it. Somehow, we're unique because New Britain, Cromwell, and Middletown, there are no. And New Britain, Berlin has 3. Technically, 1 municipality and 2 quasi-municipalities. It's a little bit unique from that perspective, and a little bit difficult to operate because all 3 are fiercely independent. So that's the problem. So anyway,
How many I do you think we should be doing?
I think we've done enough.
I think we have too.
Yes,
We've gone over and aboard what our
Oh,
side.
definitely. We've been collectively, Berlin Water Control Commission have been instrumental in effectuating some changes that they would have not done. Neither were the Kensington would have done anything had it been for Art, for instance, getting the Webster Square thing in Gulcher Brook later on. So I think, they have to be motivated. The only way they're going to be motivated is by an agency taking more responsibility that has enforcement capabilities. We don't, Art doesn't. So Art can ask them for different things, but
Art sends the bill to us anyways, doesn't he?
yeah, I'm trying to.
I mean, so, this is like a catch-22.
Well, actually,
Blowing
not that
smoke
bad.
up the citizens' behind. That's all we're doing.
well,
Next thing you wanna do is come back to us and find another I&I that we can play with and put it on our tax, put it on our water. This is getting ridiculous.
you're absolutely right, and I agree with you on this one because I do not want to do any more until somebody else does more.
I'm with you.
And what you raise is a well taken point, is because we've led the charge for this, and I think it's the time for somebody else to lead the charge. And I think the only way, and I looked at the issue of Mad Bassett billing us separately. I'm still toying with that idea.
If you can get that.
I'd like to try that. I ran it by Art. He didn't like it, but I didn't think he would anyway. He would prefer we battle it out rather than him battling it out. So.
But we don't have any, like you said, we don't have any enforcement power to get them to clean up their act.
No, and actually, nor does he. His charter allows him to ask them for different things or require it from his perspective. But if they don't do it, he doesn't have anything else to tell them. He's not
Doesn't he have any enforcement?
our line. He's not going to shut us off because we're so limited. So
Yeah,
So the only agencies I think that have any clout in this matter are EPA and DEEP.
That's what I was
passing it on to Art. So I think it's.
Can't Art- well, you say Deep and EPA are passing on him. Is there somewhere where he can just default, or not default, but just defer it and say, I don't have any power over this entity, Kensington and Worthington. You guys do. You guys have to take some initiative into this, otherwise it can't be done.
Well, that's exactly what I'm saying in the letter to them, because I think that's the only question is, one, I do not want to see a moratorium, particularly when we're looking at maybe 200 to 300 additional customers for the next 2 to 3 years, and for us. That's conservative. And then the other thing is that we would be held accountable for any additional I&I. That's out of the question. I'm not doing anything additionally. We're doing a major pump station, which basically is going to improve the capacity capability that we have. And then we'll have to turn to the secondary pump station on the Norton Turnpike. But even then, that's not going to be, it's not going to be on my radar for another 2 or 3 years.
But when we go to pay the bill to Manifest, we're paying Worthington and Kensington, right?
Right.
Do we know what our share is?
Yes, because I make the
Just
proposal.
send our money and just tell Art, go chase Kensington, go chase Worthington.
Yeah.
See what, nothing motivates people like money. So if you take the money away from them, they're gonna move.
I hear you. Actually, I'm, believe it or not, I'm very supportive of what you just said, so.
Just,
All right,
joke.
okay,
Next.
4.6.
4.6, now this occurred within the last, well, actually, it's been occurring longer than I thought. Several of our fellows, we have a pump station situated right outside on Berlin Street, right outside the entrance almost to Stan Camp. And lo and behold, the only entities there are Stan Camp that provides a flow into it, and then the building across the street, which is a multi-building, multi-unit apartment complex, basically. So the only 2 sources into this is a small little pump station, but it's corroded, it's got problems. We were looking at trying to replace the top. Earth Contractors has already ordered a new top and a new thing, and new ladders down in it, and also in a new pump, and some check valves that are required. But nobody wants to go near it because apparently there's some kind of product that's being discharged. So this came up the other day, and it for some reason it just happened to pick on a Friday or whatever, blew through into the system, and I got pictures here. There were gloves in there. There was a lot of latex products in there, which we thought was coming from a nursing home, but no, it comes exclusively from Stan Camp. Also, the product, which is a multi, they make a latex material, which is basically used for latex paint and pump. I had it tested from Northeast Laboratories, and it takes back an acetate polymer, which is definitely theirs. So I've already talked with their operations manager. Basically, he realizes that they've got a problem. He's hired 2 plumbing companies to camera the work and try to find out if there's some investigative work in their process to try to eliminate it. We can't do any work until this is cleaned up because the guys going over there just opening it up get a headache and feel nauseous. So we can't physically, I can't ask anybody to do any work with this until we realize that this is, that hazard has been mitigated.
Yeah, the question I have is, does this come into the auspices of DEEP or EPA?
Yeah, actually,
EPA more than DEEP.
actually, Michelle Ryan from Mad Bassett called me today to let me know that she mentioned it to Deep, so they already know. But the
Are they
gentleman,
gonna investigate?
well, at this point in time, the gentleman from from Stan Camp is doing whatever he can to get it mitigated. So I don't think Deep's intervention at this point in time would help. But certainly, if nothing happens, then yes, we'll have to see how it goes. Anyway, that's an ongoing issue. It's still flowing in there, although it's a minor flow. It's still stinks to high heavens. 4.7, Norton Road Meter Station. Worthington has indicated to us about a week and a half ago that they actually opened up the meter and opened up the valve. Now we have a meter station right outside of Willard School. I like this one because actually the flow goes both ways. So this flow both ways going to either into Worthington or from Worthington to us. Typically, though, I think the flow is generally into the Worthington system. 4.8, Cromwell Fire District. I had a call from their engineer and an indication Also, they are on the DWSRF list as well. They're looking at another connection with us, which I'm thrilled to have because it's another connection to East Berlin. We're only about 100 to 150 feet apart, which I didn't realize. It turns out to be right over on Berlin Street. I forget the name of the street on the other Cromwell side, but anyway, they have a hydrant going almost to the river, and we have a hydrant too. So that's possibly a potential interconnection down the road, which they'll put in a meter station and potentially borrow buy water from that location as well. It always has, it's always helpful to have another interconnection. 4.9 VOC violation. Unfortunately, our staff was so December was so busy, they missed the collection period. They were under the impression, unfortunately, a misimpression, that we needed to collect VOC testing every 90 days apart, for some reason or other. Explained to them that all the VOC testing has to be done is in the quarter. So we've already collected our quarterly for this year. Unfortunately, we will get a violation. I want to get the violation, and we have to go to press to let the public know that we had a violation. From the health perspective, it's not, does nothing as a problem. It's just a mechanical thing that we have to make the rules to the public that we that collect the sample. Fluoride award. Since I've been here, I think 6 out of the 7 years, and I had nothing to do with it. The gentleman in our field, Charlie Setkowski, Wayne gave, Charlie, Mike Personowski, Bill Goldfried, and just the latest one, Mike Mendoza. They do a great job. The fluoride basically is at our Elton Road treatment station. They do chlorination and fluoridation there. This notification is from CDC, the Center for Disease Control out of Atlanta, and also the State Health Department. So it's kind of a nice recognition for the field staff. And then 411, Chairman, this would be yours, election of officers.
Oh, yeah, we need officers. Anybody interested? Making a motion, if you're interested in taking over, that's fine. Or if anybody's interested in making a motion that the officers that we had last year would be the same officers that we have this year.
I make a motion, we maintain the officers. 2000.
Okay, second?
Fairwood second.
Okay, and for the record, whatever that consists of, Bruce LaRoche is the chairman, Jim Piccoli is vice chairman, Barry Fairwood as secretary, and I believe that's it.
Right.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor, seconded. Any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Does this mean I still get to use the executive washroom?
Okay, anytime.
Contrary minds today.
I think Liam's got a spot for you.
All right, Gary, our officers are the same. All right, old business.
Whole business, 5.1, there's really nothing new to add, and we'll have a little bit of a discussion in the executive session. So I pass on that, but I'm basically seeing no action at this point in time. 5.2, NBC's payment status. As you know, they paid us over $270,000 back in January. I'm still actively, I think they're getting a little bit tired of me. I'm ending up at a couple of their board meetings, and a couple of their commissioners are pretty hard nosed. They don't want to give us anything extra for the years of service that we gave them. So basically, that's still at a standstill. I still appear at some of their board meetings, and hopefully maybe I can
Is
do
this
something.
the sewer usage coming out of Rocky Hill?
Yes, and in the last one, which was interesting, because they actually showed the distribution system. I showed it last time. It's significant. We provide service to almost 1,200 customers in Rocky Hill, which is fairly significant. And we only have 120 customers, so we were actually working for them. So I'm still looking. Now, the 2020 bill, I haven't issued yet. It'll be for water and sewer on Raleigh Street, Deming Road. That provides us with a little bit of extra money, but nothing substantial. I'm still looking for some kind of historic repayment for the 1987 to 2009. I somehow just, it's hard for me to let it go, but I believe we should be getting something for that.
Can we slow down and back up to NBC?
Yes, sir.
Sir. Now, you said, I figured this out. We supply sewer usage to residents of part of Newington and part of Rocky Hill.
Correct.
These residents, who are they paying their sewer bills to?
NDC.
NBC is collecting money for our sewers, not giving it back.
Yeah, you wanna get on the phone with me, you're welcome.
I'm just trying to understand.
I'm always looking for support. I mean, but several of the commissioners basically turned around and said, no. And they said, well, it's just too bad because you should have asked for it. Then I keep telling them, I can't ask for it because you need to provide me with the information for me to ask for it. Whatever happened, happened. We can't unwind that, but on the other hand, when you look at the fact that we provided them service, nobody from a sophisticated company like NBC even asked for anything from us. When we met with them in 2016, it wasn't until 2019 when I sent them letters and asked them, I said, aren't you gonna pay us for this? Then they got interested in it. But otherwise, they wouldn't have asked anything. We wouldn't have gotten any,
But the fact that they're billing for services they're not providing, is that considered theft or fraud?
Well, I don't know about the definition of that, but anyway, that's a legal issue.
The customers in Rocky Hill doing, have no
Well,
idea.
They don't, they're paying a bill, they don't care where it goes.
Yeah, right, they, as far as
They
they
get
know.
they get service, they're paying a bill.
As far as they know, NBC's handling.
Right, exactly.
So
Yeah.
NBC is handling it because they're billing, but we're not getting the payments, or we hadn't been getting the payments.
Do we have a legal recourse for this?
Yeah, but I don't think it's true.
And we had our town attorney take a look and see. if
Yes,
there's
his point to me was, get what you can.
So,
I already got almost $250,000 from them, for payments that arrears over the last year.
How much more do they owe? How much more?
Well, I would like to
Roughly.
get,
give them the information.
well, I asked for $1 million, and so I'm, they're not gonna, here's the other thing, Alan, you'll find this interesting. We had to replace what we're doing for them, and I estimated $20 million, they'd have to put in two pumping stations at $10 million each. And the operation of that would be probably about $150,000 a year. We're giving them a deal, what our normal payment or invoice probably would be about 30 to 40 grand a year. So we're the best deal that they possibly could have. And then yet they still turn around and say, you shouldn't get anything.
They got a better deal than zero.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't beat that.
That's
Yeah,
because
and don't
they-
forget, in 1987, which is the last invoice we asked for, the flow rate from the NBC was 92% of the flow going through that pumping station was theirs. 8% was ours. We gotta remember, where Home Depot was an open area theater.
Yeah, it was a drive-in theater, right?
There was no development in that area. It doesn't look anywhere near what it looks like now, so,
You got any
Particularly
valves to shut off? Do you?
well, they actually
Do they have
I
valves
can't
or-
shut them off, but there's two meter stations that they have, one on Raleigh Street, one on Little Brook, which is Kobe Brook. Over Rocky Hill.
Yeah, you don't have to.
And plus, on top of this is the other thing, is when they gave us a distribution map, Newington has a little bit of a developable area in that area that it still contributes. Rocky Hill still has several hundred acres that potentially could be developed, potentially go into the system. So we have to look at something of a larger size in terms of the station, the pumping station.
Can I get this right, that it's because they're withholding the information to where we can't bill them?
No, originally, you see, on an annual basis, the only way we could bill them is that he would ask them what their flow rate was, because from coming in from the 2 meter stations, then we would take that proportion and then take that and then put an invoice together and then bill it according to that proportion.
I'm referring to the previous bills in the previous years.
Well, they hadn't been asked for. We didn't ask for them and they didn't ask for them. So
Okay, but we're requesting them now and they're refusing to give this?
Yeah, because they said it's beyond the statute of limitations.
That's a cop out.
Well, it is.
Yeah.
Is that a legal fact?
Technically, it is. We could argue it, but we'd be in court. That would necessarily would.
So that's the past. What about the present? Are we able to bill the present?
Oh, yeah, yeah. In fact, they're after me to make sure I give them invoices.
So they're being billed on a timely basis and they're paying on a
Yeah.
timely basis?
I've never had this. They're asking me in December for already the year's ending billing. So
See, as though we're the only game in town. Can we start dodging them?
Now, just hand the bill.
well,
They
there
come
might be
from
some other
us.
ways to charge them.
Hand the bill.
Well, you gotta remember though, they're gonna be paying 60% of a $2.5 million plant. You can't go wrong with that.
All right.
Moving on.
Okay, drought status. This is a misnomer. There is no more drought, which you probably know. We had just got the official word at the beginning of the year.
Drought's gone.
Yeah, the drought's going, for the time being anyway, who knows if it comes back or not. And then, this is the subdivision off of the Berlin Turnpike over by ours. The Daddio, who's the developer there, did call me, about a month and a half ago. He wants to connect to the southerly section, his gas station, proposed gas station with the Dunkin' Donuts type of thing, maybe a 7-Eleven, I really don't know, something of that sort. I told him we would look at it, but not necessarily approve it at this point in time because we don't have the wherewithal. He wants to run it off our hydrant. Depending upon what that looks like, I'm not really sure we want to do that. But anyway, we'll take one step at a time and see what he has to propose. He hasn't come back to me to that, so that hasn't been.
I can't recall ever running a water service off of a hydrant.
Yeah, it's not typical. There's a 6-inch.
My memory's usually pretty good and it goes
Well,
back a
there's
few years.
a 6-inch line that comes off the 20-inch. That was done when the 20-inch was put in originally. Actually, there's, I think, 3 hydrants basically in that area, or span of area. And if we were to do that again, we would probably have a serious problem if we tried to do anything like that again. So he's thinking we could tap off the 6-inch line that goes to the hydrant. It is conceivable. It's not something I particularly care for to do. If we were to do it, and I'm not recommending it, we would do it on an interim basis only. Then when the 16-inch line goes in, we would have a real viable connection. But right now, he's mentioned that he hasn't come back with a formal proposal. So
Has his attitude changed on the right of way for the pump station?
it's a good question. He hasn't said anything about it.
It's been a blank.
Yeah, well, it hasn't been something on his radar. But I don't know how to answer
Well, if the right of way is not obtained, then his project is stalled.
It's still an issue, yes. The right of way is still an issue.
We have to protect our best interest in what we have there for equipment and
Correct.
material.
Correct.
We can't just put stuff right on top of it.
Right. That would still be an issue finally too, because a 24-inch, 24-inch force main goes over to the 66-inch line, which is the Metabassa line. It's just north. And then our 20-inch, and then eventually our 16-inch is going to be on all sides. The 20-inch I envision as being abandoned in the future, and then everything off the 16-inch line would be.
Take it over.
It doesn't.
So we don't need to take any action. Is he gonna, when he comes in with a better proposal, he's gonna come in with engineering drawings?
I don't know.
I would think that's a
I
requirement.
presume it would. I wouldn't accept it.
I'm not taking anything without engineering.
So if he can't tap up the existing 20-inch, why can't he be responsible for installing the 60?
Well, actually, he is in a way because his frontage is 670 feet. So he would have an assessment for water, which is, I think it's like $29 per foot. I had calculated it once I have it upstairs. And because it's a double highway, also the sewer line would be $39 per foot. We have a water sewer assessment. Then there's connection fees for all those particular the buildings. And then there's permit fees for all. So I think it worked it up to about $150,000 something. So it's a pretty sizable amount.
So he is picking up the tab on parts of it.
Well, he would when eventually if that project goes through as
As it's stated. Okay.
Plus, we'll be picking up almost 200 customers.
Does this project go all the way to Deming Road, all the way to Stern?
That's a good point too.
Or does it start shorter than you
What we
start?
have for description, it seems to end just between that building that's between the Blue Lobster and that Comfort Hotel. To get this kind of a.
I was wondering about who's going all the way to.
Yeah,
I think that's where the line,
Right, you start.
the 16-inch line stops. And then we would want to have that connected there. Hopefully it goes that far. Hopefully.
All right. Anything else?
That's it for me, other than the executive session.
Okay, so,
Make a motion to adjourn then?
No.
Executive session.
Executive session.
You'll have to express the topic of the executive session before we go into executive session.
Okay.
And take a motion.
okay, so
to
we have
go
five,
into
5.5 is an agenda item for an executive session. For what purpose?
Litigation.
Was there a motion?
I made a motion, maybe I said the wrong words, I made a motion to adjourn to go into executive session.
Good.
Okay, second?
I'll second it.
Second Al. All those in favor? Aye. After reminds nay. Okay,
Okay,
so
give
the
me
regular
half,
meeting has been, transferred over to an executive session meeting.
okay, just give me half a minute to turn.
Yeah,
Marble, are you still on?